Shabbat Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, a lot of people are saying that Donald Trump is using this war as a diversion away from the Epstein files. And, you be the judge of it. But you're going to hear some really interesting things in the videos that I'm going to present you on that. And is it far fetched? No. Rich people in this country are true devils. They really are. And they have been in the forefront to all of the racism in this country. They have been in the forefront of all of the mass incarceration that has gone on and many things, including all of these rich families have rose up through slavery, and they are still rich to this very day. That's why they call it old money. Old money means that family earned all of their wealth through slavery, and we know a lot of them do it through even to this very day, exploiting people in these private prisons that they own, that they demand the police officers keep 90% occupied. That's why they don't care about innocent people being behind bars. It's all about exploiting people and getting that slave labor out of them so that their families can remain wealthy. Well, now they're doing that with the ICE detention centers. So, Jeffrey Epstein, when you start looking at the Epstein files, he didn't do nothing but exploit a bunch of people, not only, you know, um, actually, but even physically. He did a lot of manipulating behind the scenes. So, and we're hearing about, him doing hunts and cannibalism has come up. I mean, this man was a straight up demon. After I have the little bit that I have read on the Epstein files, there was nothing appealing about Jeffrey Epstein. This man was a straight up devil. He really was. I don't see anything that any legacy that he left that is even worth keeping. His legacy was just all deviltry, every bit of it. So I'm not shocked that Donald Trump is doing everything he can to deflect away from the Epstein files, being that he's mentioned in it more than anyone else. A lot of people are mentioned in it. That's why so many people, if you go online, look at how many of these rich people quit their jobs because of the Epstein files coming out. A lot of them have quit, a lot of them. And both, they always Donald Trump wanted to make it look like it was, mostly the Democrats. It was both of them. It was both Democrats and Republicans. There's people in Congress, the Senate, you know, Donald Trump, and I think it was Larry Summers recently resigned as a dean because he appears in the Epstein file. A lot of them have been quitting their jobs as CEOs and everything. And one thing I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart, F you rich Edomites and all of you that are in the Epstein file, I don't feel bad for you. You all deserve to be in that fiery lake as far as I'm concerned. How do you have this amount of rich people in the land and poverty is still here. And it just goes to show you, when you look at the biblical text, it's the rich that are supposed to help the people that are poor. You shouldn't have no poor problem in your country, and you got thousands and thousands of wealthy people in the land. But in America, you got homelessness. And if rich people really were doing what they're supposed to do, there should be no homelessness in the land. But they're all about self and hurting other people. You know, um, I put videos together, every now and then I put together videos on Americans that are struggling, y'all. And when you listen to Americans, I did put one, I just didn't publish it yet. I have it on private. I just have to publish it. And there are so many Americans working for these big corporations owned by these rich people in this country. And they're saying their salaries are not livable. And you'd be surprised, a lot of white people, and you'll see them in the video. When I show the video, I have it planned to publish on Sunday. I might publish it after Sabbath is over, but there are so many on the video telling you their salaries are not enough to live on anymore. They can pay their bills, but won't have enough money for food, or most of their income goes towards the rent. And then once they pay the rent, they don't really have money for anything else, barely got money to buy food. But this is what these rich families have done in this country to people. This is what they have done, and they don't care. So, the way I see it, why should anybody care that they appear in the Epstein files and it's being revealed? But see, Donald Trump, being that he's in it so many times, he has really been fighting hard to make sure other white rich people, their names don't come out. He's been really working hard on that. He don't even care about the victims. He doesn't care. But he does care about their names being revealed, and that's what, he was fighting so hard against Marjorie Taylor Greene, talking about if the names are, you're going to hurt a lot of people. Who the hell cares if those people get hurt? Seriously, who cares? Especially if they did things. Why should anybody care? So I want y'all to listen to, even Jeffrey Epstein said if Donald Trump is sort of cornered, how he would use war to distract away from the Epstein files. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's using war to distract away from it. And there's also a recording of Donald Trump saying if he goes down, he's taking a whole bunch of people with him. So you'll hear that as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Ozzy Edwards, thank you so much for your super chat. We all know that this is one big distraction. Absolutely, it is. And there's a lot of people you're going to hear in the video that are going to agree with exactly what you just said. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you.
The Epstein files may reveal one of the reasons Donald Trump is going into war with Iran. Jeffrey Epstein one time wrote, if Donald Trump was cornered like a rat, he would begin a global conflict by bombing Iran. And it kind of looks like that's what we're seeing. And what's really crazy is that this anonymous post on 4chan revealed all of this happening 4 months before it actually did. He predicted we would go after Venezuela, Greenland, Iran. He also revealed that the United States would want to tokenize this war. Each country that they're going after has something that they want. And it's starting to make sense because the president at his age, in his final term, why does he want to start a war? And
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what Epstein was saying. This is what Epstein is saying. And look at what is going on now. War. War, because the file is talking way too much about Donald Trump. So he predicted Donald Trump would talk about Greenland, going after Iran, spoke about Venezuela. It's all in the Epstein files. All of it. Y'all, if you got young people don't let your young people fight in this stuff. If you can get them out of this, get them out. Get them out. Don't let them lose their life. Don't let your family members lose their life over Donald Trump. He's absolutely not worth it. All right, let's go on.
they all predicted this would be happening on this one token right here called the Western Asset Reserve, ticker WAR. The Western Asset Reserve WAR is sitting at $32 million. It has consistently been one of the top cryptos in the whole entire meme coin space. WAR is verified on the Phantom wallet where you could easily buy it. And people are saying that BlackRock could be announcing this at the summit in Washington, D.C. on March 11th, where Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, will be giving a speech on tokenization. Do yourself a huge favor. Check out the Western Asset Reserve WAR for the contract address, or any questions, leave WAR in the comments.
Not releasing the Epstein files. Fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't care what you do. Start a fucking war. Just don't let them get out. If I go down, I will bring all of you down with me.
Starting a war with Iran is going to make people forget that Jeffrey Epstein was a monster and that he helped other monsters do terrible things as well. The problem I see is a lot of people seem really fixated on the island. Like that was the only place that these horrible things happened. And if someone didn't go to the island, then they're not a bad guy. When the reality is, the vast majority of his victims never went to the island. He preyed upon people at his home in Palm Beach, at his home in New York, and now we know about another. New York Times just did a piece on the property that he owns in New Mexico, a 30,000 square foot mansion on a piece of land that he called the Zorro Ranch. Several of his victims said that they were trafficked there. Famous figures visited, and Mr. Epstein mused about turning Zorro into a headquarters for outlandish genetic engineering experiments. However, New Mexico leaders say there was never been a thorough investigation of the criminal activity that may have occurred at the ranch during the 26 years the convicted sex offender owned it. A state-led inquiry into Mr. Epstein's actions was taken over by federal prosecutors in 2019 and then apparently fizzled, according to New Mexico officials in recently unsealed records. Donald Trump's DOJ took over the investigation and then did nothing. Speaking of nothing, it was a year ago that a bunch of right-wing influencers paraded around the White House grounds carrying binders that were essentially filled with nothing. It was information that had already been publicly available or just fluff and filler. And when that wasn't acceptable to the public, they started releasing more stuff, heavily redacted, often deleted stuff. That's not what accountability looks like. Instead, House Republicans made a spectacle out of bringing in Hillary and Bill Clinton, having them testify under oath, which they did willingly, by the way, and denied any wrongdoing. They were very transparent. And yet they keep pushing that narrative that they're where we should focus. They're who we should look at. They continue pushing a narrative about the Clintons while ignoring the snakes in their own grass. I don't know, people like Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who first said he barely knew Epstein, like met him once in passing. And then turned out, went to his island. And there's literally a picture of this. Oh, that, by the way, they then deleted. Or Les Wexner, a longtime GOP donor who is listed in the files as a co-conspirator, recently sat for a closed hearing that no Republicans attended. It has been a year. And despite the fact that the GOP controls the House, there has been no accountability for Epstein's powerful network and no justice for his victims. It's almost as if They never cared in the first place.
It is now clear that Donald Trump is sending us to war in Iran to avoid talking about the Epstein files. He didn't even get Americans out of the obvious retaliatory targets that Iran would use. So now we have American citizens stuck all around the Middle East who are being told to take commercial flights back home, and there are no commercial flights. He abandoned them because he was in such a rush to avoid what he knows to be his massive Achilles heel because of his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein.
I want to talk about what we would be talking about if not for this war.
Does it involve files?
It does.
Does it involve files by chance?
On Sunday, Congressman Thomas Massey, a Republican from Kentucky, said on X, bombing a country on the other side of the globe won't make the Epstein files go away. So what is the status of the Epstein files in Congress right now?
Well, the immediate takeaway is as long as you're in the United States, you're good. If you were in the files anywhere else in the world, you're facing consequences, right? You have 3 million pages. And the way they released it is such a bleh. You know, I mean, they released accidentally a form that detailed the FBI getting tips about Donald Trump raping children.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took it away. And then everyone's like, we have screenshots. And the Justice Department was like, we still have 3 million documents, but that's all you have any. And a friend of mine reached out, messaged me on Facebook because, you know, bold. And she said, are there going to be any repercussions? And I said, not right now. Give it a minute. Because there are 3 million pages. The Justice Department released these in such a sloppy manner. It's going to take time. And every major news organization, God knows there's many fewer of those now, they have teas. They're using AI. They're going through it. The story, and I get on like, well, where are the stories? Give it a minute.
Okay.
I do believe it's just going to take really long time.
This administration can't even give us a straight answer as to why we launched this preemptive war. The president says we had to strike first because an Iranian strike was imminent. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense conceded there was no evidence of an imminent Iranian strike. Some told us this war was about nuclear weapons, but 6 months ago, we were assured our last strike on Iran decimated their nuclear program. So which is it? I think the most candid answer came from the Secretary of State, who told the press that Israel forced our hand and dragged us into this war again. And that truth is the very reason why it is Congress that must decide war. If American lives are to be risked and American blood is to be shed, that decision must be debated and voted on by the representatives of the American people. And that debate is meant to be arduous. And that vote is meant to be hard. I have a theory. I think my colleagues don't want to go on record because we have a terrible track record of meddling in the Middle East. They don't want their name associated with this when it doesn't turn out well. But Congress cannot be bothered with its constitutional duty because for many in this chamber, it's easier to simply allow someone else's sons and daughters to be sent to combat without their vote. And to be clear, we aren't even here to declare war today. All we're voting on is a war powers resolution to reassert the Constitution, that Congress must decide questions of war. And if Congress wants war, then the Speaker should hold a vote to declare it.
They just started 2 wars to bury the Epstein files. Only Arabs know exactly what's happening. February 19th, Prince Andrew arrested for Epstein connections. February 24th, Bill Gates apologizes for Epstein ties. February 26th, Hillary testifies. World Economic Forum president resigns. February 27th, Bill Clinton testifies. 7 days of the biggest scandal exposures in history. Then what happens? Same day, Pakistan attacks Afghanistan. Next day, the US strikes Iran's leadership. 2 wars in 2 days. Here's what experienced observers notice. You can't make scandals disappear, but you can bury them under bigger events. Epstein dominated every headline all week. Now everyone's watching explosions. Nobody's talking about Clinton or Gates anymore. But here's the suspicious part. The same week global conflict rises, major defense contracts start moving. This is how power protects itself. 7 people exposed in 7 days. 2 wars started in 2 days. While the public watches conflict, deals get signed. Investigations stall. Nothing happens to the elite. Most people see separate news stories. Strategic thinkers see timing. The people at the top don't panic. They redirect attention. You don't fight power by reacting emotionally. You study how it moves. Never assume scandals alone will take down the powerful. Always watch how chaos reshapes influence. If you want to learn how to read power patterns instead of headlines, comment money and I'll share more.
Let me ask you.
If I may mention
Of course.
this point, this war, Donald Trump in particular has a great interest in this war to divert the American opinions from the Epstein files, because he is, as we read, have a lot to do with Epstein files and the problems in Minnesota, Minneapolis, with the ICE and the federal police against the people there, and other issues within America, because many Americans now, they have a consensus against Donald Trump, because the American people feel that their standard of living fell down because of Israel and Ukraine in particular.
Yes.
You hear a lot of people say that this war, or anything else for that matter, is a distraction from the Epstein files. Well, the timing of this war is literally based on the Epstein files. Stay with me so I can explain. On February 24th, an NPR investigation uncovered the fact that the DOJ had withheld or removed at least 53 pages of FBI interviews from the public database. This includes child sexual abuse allegations against Donald Trump. And then on February 25th, Representative Robert Garcia, the ranking member on House Oversight, sent a formal letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi. He confirmed independently that these files were scrubbed and demanded an explanation. And then on February 26th, Oversight Dems issued an ultimatum to the DOJ that they have a deadline of February 27th. So here's the thing. The Epstein file release is based on Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's Epstein File Transparency Act. Unfortunately, this act contains a key safety valve for the DOJ. Section 2C1B of the act says, in regards to which files don't have to be released, that this is only the case if, quote, the public disclosure of the record would compromise an active federal investigation or intelligence operation. And there's the key. In the files are details about Iran. This includes a letter from biologist Robert Trivers alleging that Epstein met with former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. And it mentions parallel operations to the Iran-Contra affair in the 80s and 90s using the BCCI bank. Before crypto, that's how he moved money. Now, we may have to cover that part of it more in the future because that's crazy, but let's move on. For our purposes here, this links the Epstein files to the war. And Israel and the United States launched attacks 1 hour and 15 minutes after the deadline given by House Oversight Dems. Now they can say that they can't release the rest because it would jeopardize an intelligence operation. I'm telling you, these people are smarter than you think. Now, to be clear, I don't think this is the entire purpose of the war. I think Trump and Netanyahu were preparing for this anyway, if nothing else than to advance their authoritarianism agendas. But now, thanks to Israel using this timeline to support Trump, they now have even more to hold over him than they already did, like they needed it. No, you're not crazy, and neither am I. Everything we're dealing with this orange monster seems to be linked.
All right, y'all. You know, you're going to have to be the judge of what you heard and how you use your own discernment about this whole thing. But we know these folks, yes, they would sacrifice your sons and daughters to cover up what they got going on. And that's where I draw the line, y'all. That's where I draw the line. So I know our young people are over there, and I was looking at some of the bombing last night, and they showed a map of all the US military bases that Iran hit. And a lot of our young are in these bases. And yeah, I hate to see that. But I know with war, casualties it will include our people. It's inevitable, whether we want it or not. So I do pray for them. But as for these people that are behind this whole thing, man, I hope the Most High put you in the hottest part of that lake of fire. I really do, and let you feel all of the pain. So, y'all, I don't believe Donald Trump is sitting there talking about this will be over in 4 or 5 weeks. I don't believe that. I don't believe that, y'all. I believe this thing will probably go on throughout the rest of this year and even into 2027. Iran is not willing to sit down with Donald Trump, and that's because he done screwed them over twice. Donald Trump in the past called for, in 2025 and also this year, called for ceasefire. And the very next day after he did that, he bombed Iran. He did that to him twice. That's why they said they are not going to do a ceasefire with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has already showed he's untrustworthy. They can't believe his word. So the agenda from what I was listening to from the Iranians, their agenda is to go on with this war that was started with them first. They're going to go on with the fight. So they have no interest in sitting down with Israel or the United States. Yeah, I mean, nothing is getting done. Yeah, I mean, the country is still in a partial government shutdown. That's true. That's true. Um, Truth be told, 19, thank you so much for the super sticker. I deeply appreciate your support for my channel. Y'all, we are unfortunately being ruled by some of the most wicked people on the entire earth. They are the ones running things. They are. We know their time is going to run out and it's going to come to an end, but it's painful going through it. That's all I got to say. It's painful going through it. Yeah, Iran said they are done with negotiating with Donald Trump. They are done. And I get, when I understood, when they explained it, I definitely understand. Who the hell wants to go to a negotiating table with someone that is untrustworthy and don't keep their word? I wouldn't do it either. I don't blame them. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. My next live will be the Bible study. So I hope to see you there. And if I don't see you there, have a wonderful afternoon. I do have another live coming up, but that's going to be a little later. So have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen. Shabbat Shalom.